got a couple of issues that we need to go over before we go directly to the information dealing with the budget. Greta, you have some special claims that you need to present. Okay.
In front of you is a copy of the claims order. Of course, the motions and seconds and votes will be changed after you actually vote, but those are the three claims that will be presented.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. We have three special claims this morning. The first of those is to Prince and Associate in the amount of $2,651.50 for legal services for the board.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
Nay. And let the
Motion passes.
let the record reflect that those expenditures were not budgeted appropriately. And that's my reason for voting. The board should take an action to balance the budget when they read it.
Ms. Calhoun, aren't you a member of the board? Can't you take action if that's what you feel like was not done? Okay, continue, please.
I just explained my explanation, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. The next special claim is from Malachi Financial Products. It is in the amount of $12,500 for financial services for the 2013 GO negotiable note. And this was the refinancing of the Motorola note.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Question from Mr. Walker.
Will this be the final payment on this note?
Yes.
This is it.
This is the only payment to Malachi for the GO note, yes.
All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes.
And let the record again reflect that I think the handling of the manner in which the debt was paid off was inappropriately handled.
Continue, please.
Thank you very much. And the final claim is two invoices from Chambers and Gaylor Law Firm PLLC. The first of those is for $12,500 for counsel to the county on the GO negotiable note, and the other is $700 for the Darius Harris, Ray Marshall, Frederick Malone, and individuals versus Hinds County in the amount of $700 for a total claim of $13,200.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Question from Mr. Walker.
Again, I asked the same question. If this is the final payment on this note to this firm.
Correct.
And
And now on the other, I'm sure that is a litigation in progress, so this is just another status, another invoice for services in August.
Okay. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We have an order approving the claims portion of the minutes for today, September 5, 2013, for your approval.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. The second item, or the first item on the agenda, before we get directly to the budget, I'll go to Supervisor Hunter under other business for a couple of items under his name. Supervisor Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion for the approval of $50,000 from the 2007 bond money fund to be moved to the Recreation District 2. And for the use of recreation.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
Nay, and again, would you let let the minutes reflect that the reason I'm voting nay is that I think that we should have transferred those funds from our cash flow funds.
Okay.
The second item I have is the approval to.
Let me just to say the motion carries 3-2. Your next item.
Is to transfer $10,000 from the District 2 Recreation Fund for the Grove Park community for batting cages and maintenance equipment.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
The third item I have is to allow, approve to allow IMS to make an assessment for the cost of repairs of the Livestock Community Center located in Edwards.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
A question,
Question from Supervisor Calhoun.
where are these funds coming from? What source?
They're gonna come out of the fund that we moved, the $2.5 million fund that we moved from the Byron Clinton Carter, well, not the Byron Clinton Carter, from the 2007 bond fund.
Correct.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes.
Mr. President.
Mr. Stokes?
Thank you. On item number 1, Mr. President, Supervisor Hunt, and I hope we can help you with it because when you help at Grove Park, it's located in District 2, but it's citywide and really countywide because it's really the only baseball field that they really utilize. In the city, I know Battlefield and others, but they're not utilized like Grove Park and some kind of way. Maybe they can transfer the funds or something, but this is something everybody can be helping with because everybody uses it, whether it's the boys, baseball association, kids come from everywhere. So, you know, the batting cage and the help over there at Grove Park is something that really does benefit everybody. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one additional item that's, we'd like to place under other business. This is the approval to transfer $50,000 from the 2007 bond fund to District 1 Recreation Fund for paving Palm Bridges Park and Shepherd Park in District 1. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Question?
This is an additional $50,000 being taken from the bond fund of 2007
Correct.
that had been earmarked for the Byron Clinton corridor.
That is correct.
Okay, so that amount is now down by, what, 3.5?
I think it's 550. 550.
I'm not sure.
No,
what it
it's
is.
3.5. A million, then 2.5 was taken, that's 3.5. And an additional 50,000 here, because I think Supervisor Hunter's motions, that was from the, also, right?
Mhm.
That was additional money.
That was not additional money. That was money that was taken from the fund that.
Okay, so we still at 3.5
Right.
plus.
The money that we appropriated or allocated for that. Am I correct?
No, the 2.5 million that we moved originally.
2.5 plus.
No, I want this $50,000, my proceeds to come from the 2.5 that we moved.
Right. That's what we're talking about.
Not additionally to the 2.5 and the $1 million.
Right, that's what I said.
No, sir.
I'm talking about the additional 50,000.
It's coming
for
from-
District 1.
Yes, coming
So
from the
there will
bond
be an
fund as
addition
well.
to the
No.
2.5 and the 1 million
No,
that it was
no.
taken from.
No,
Well, I think I'm close to being on target.
okay. The money that I'm,
2.5 was taken from the 2007 bond fund that had been earmarked for Byron Clinton Carter. That's the 2.5 million. And the 50,000 was taken from
Okay.
that 2.5.
If it makes you feel better, Dr. Walker, what I'll do is I'll say that the $50,000 that I'm requesting comes from the 2.5 million that was allocated for that as opposed to the 2007 bond issue. If that makes everything, let me just restate my motion. It's to take $50,000 from the 2.5 million that was allocated for recreation and paving to go to District 1. So that's my motion. It's been moved and second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Let this.
Motion
question,
passes.
I have a question,
Question, go ahead, please.
and I haven't voted. The paving for Grove Park, is that for the walking trail? Or is it for the streets?
It's for the walking trail and, for Grove Park?
No, for,
Applications.
no, the parks,
It's for Park, Bridges Park and
Shepherd Park.
Shepherd Park.
is that for paving for walking?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you wanting public works to do that?
No, I'm not going into that yet right now. Okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Are you voting in favor of that?
I have a question, I'm not ready to vote. And I see our financial advisor. Several hundreds of thousands of dollars have been removed from the bond 207 bond funds. And I don't have any reference to what the board earlier had dedicated those funds to. But some of the items that I hear that the funds will be expended for, not really specific items. And I know the bonds were repurposed, but I also know that we have to be very cautious and careful about what we are now spending bond funds for, and that's my reason for voting no. I'm not against any of the projects, but I know that if we misappropriate any of these bond funds, then the board will be subject and liable for repayment of those funds. So that's why I'm voting no, not for the use, but the fact that we have not received confirmations that what we're utilizing these funds for is appropriate.
Okay. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes.
I would like to hear from the financial advisor because.
Okay. Before you do that, Porter, just hold one second. I'm gonna run this today. Okay? What I'd like to do is to ask Cherie, would you just make a note to get with the legal team to make sure for the purposes of what we established, what we want to do, that is legal, and that the money can be used for that, and that to make sure you get back with the board if there's any type of discrepancies as it relates to how this is going to work, or how we're going to use this particular money. Okay?
We will, and I'll provide the board with a written report prior to the next meeting.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Bingham, you can come and answer the supervisor's questions.
Mr. President, while he's coming, may I make a statement?
Yes.
I want to make sure we put on the record, because we speak to our records, that my vote, and I would carefully say that the majority of members of this body has not voted to do anything illegal. We are not supporting any illegal activity. The legal department guided us through this whole process, and we have followed state law. And I want to make sure that's on the record.
Okay. Supervisor Calhoun and Supervisor Walker.
I have not been legally advised as to whether or not we are appropriately utilizing the funds, and nor do I sit here to suggest that the board is doing anything illegally. Sometimes we take action not being informed, and I think that's a difference from being a difference from doing something illegal versus not being informed. I want to be informed, and I have not been apprised that the funds are being allocated according to the appropriate use for batting cages and et cetera.
But, okay. I understand that. I think the question you asked earlier was whether or not, you wanted me to talk about whether or not the uses that were being suggested are legal. I'm not a lawyer, but what I do know is that there is a process in place for vetting the use of bond proceeds. We're in a highly regulated industry, and I certainly take, the SEC and FINRA seriously as it relates to what we might recommend to a client. And I'm sure that your legal counsel then and now, they're both in the Red Book, have worked on many financing transactions, public financing transactions with both teams. And to my knowledge, we've never really been guided wrong by either counsel as it relates to the statutory requirements of use of proceeds on public finance transactions. I believe that most of the uses that are suggested today for the funds happen to fall within the category of uses that would be usual under the general obligation statute, paving, parks, recreational expenses, equipment, capital improvements on buildings. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that we finance those types of activities all the time.
Dr. Walker?
Very quickly, my opposition is based on the fact that I support the Byron Clinton corridor, which is going to need money, and everything that we take from funds that were intended to pay for that is a minus for us generally. So I'm just trying to be consistent in the subsequent moves with my initial position. To the second question that Supervisor Calhoun raised, I think that to get an authoritative opinion, we need to ask whatever agency is responsible for checking our books. It may be an audit question, and maybe until such time that question is raised with the auditor's office, we still won't have, or the AG's office, we won't have anything that's legally binding.
Okay, Mr. Hunter?
As a board member, I hope that we all want to keep the integrity of the law, first, and also in trying to serve all the citizens of Hinds County. The $10,000 we spent for the zoo, I don't think that we had as many elaborate questions about those proceeds. However, we want to follow the proper protocol. Also on the Byron Clinton corridor, I'm for the corridor because I recognize that if we push it in a timely manner, but if they're gonna take another 14 years to do it, then maybe all our work will be in vain. But however, we still have other needs, urgent needs that only the small people, the little people of Hinds County deserve an opportunity to be represented by their taxations. Have some taxation with representation. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get ready to move on. Just have one particular question. Just wanted to ask Dr. I'm not finished, Ms. Calhoun. Dr. Walker, are you suggesting that the auditor's office check, make sure that, and not our attorneys, that this expenditures are proper? And if so, is it just on this morning's appropriation, or are you referring to all appropriations, including the one that we did about 2 weeks ago from the zoo?
To the question that was raised this morning, it's what kind of expenditures can be made from this fund that was set up this way or the other. If clarification is needed, then let's get clarification from a source that later will either leave us alone or could come back to bite us.
Okay, and that's on every issue, is that correct?
On the issues pertaining to the funds, what can be done with the funds that were removed from the Byram, from the bond, the 2007 bond fund.
Can I offer a
That had been
suggestion?
earmarked for the Byram Clinton corridor.
Okay.
That's all.
I agree.
Just everybody hold up. I'll recognize people in the order as which we're doing with the supervisors this morning. Ms. Calhoun, and then we'll go from that point.
Yes, our financial advisor suggested that we should defer to our legal counsel, so I would like to defer to legal counsel at this time.
Ms. Woods, and then
And then I
Porter.
have a question concerning all of this legal representation that we have this morning.
Go ahead, Ms. Woods.
Supervisor, I was gonna say, as it related to the bond funds, I want to be clear that the allocation for recreation and road is still in the bond fund. You didn't move it out, it's still in there, it's designated for that purpose.
Okay.
And also, we do have guidelines on the use of the proceeds.
Right.
But we have to assure on Mr. Hinds, requests that be put in as a great useful life and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And Ms. Davis said that we would get to them after the meeting to introduce the equipment and make sure it falls in the gap.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bingham.
I think she confirmed, she said what I want to confirm. When you do these transactions, I mean, there are opinions that follow any bond transactions. Bond counsel opinion, underwriters counsel opinion, FA opinion, and they're all opinions that support all of the, every aspect of a transaction, including the use of proceeds. So you have that on file right now. So, I don't think that unless there have been some significant change in the tax exempt financing laws, statutes here in the state of Mississippi, those opinions usually hold up for years and years to come. So Dr. Walker, I would suggest that in that opinion, that work probably has already been done.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may respond, since my name is called, all I'm suggesting is that we get some finality on this. We've got too much to take care of, too much is before us, deadlines and the like, to spend all of this time on the same thing. So let's get something conclusive and then move on to handle other things that are doing this.
Okay. Supervisor Stokes, and then Supervisor Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we tried to have Ms. Woods and others guide us through this whole process. But if we got some uneasiness, I think we need to look at everything from A to Z. Let's look at how we transferred fund money to build a garage to a parkway. And let's look at whether we could or can't. And let's look at how are we paying people that's supposed to work on the parkway that meeting after meeting they tell us will never be completed. It's only gonna be completed in phases. So we're gonna bring the audit and the AG, let's bring all the alphabets in this and let's get this thing finalized. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Calhoun.
Yes, I'm a little bit baffled this morning because we had two attorneys representing us, and I thought Monday, well, I do know Monday, the attorney Tableson was hired to the was hired as board attorney. And also his firm was hired to represent Hinds County. And that Mr. Attorney Tableson did indicate that this board would always have legal representation, even if he was not present for our meetings, and I do see Attorney Banks. I'm a little bit baffled because I see Attorney Prince here, and then Attorney Prince, prior to any items being placed on the agenda, knew that these items were coming, so I would like to defer to her to ask if she has made the determination that these funds are being appropriated
Yes,
properly.
at a previous board meeting, I handed out section 1991, which listed all the permissible purposes for the bond funds. And that was one of the requests of the board, and an issue that Supervisor Stokes had previously. I can supply another copy of that statute to the members of the board, but the purposes that are presented today, for resolution are appropriate. But I will continue to work with the financial advisor and the budget and finance director, and any AGs or auditors opinion as well, and the rest of our legal team to get you something in writing to that effect.
Let me give you an example as to what I'm referring to. We can purchase equipment, let's say heavy construction equipment with bond funds, but we cannot purchase computers. So just because the purpose of bond funds is to purchase equipment, you have to be more specific on what you are purchasing. Likewise, when it says equipment, there are specific instructions that are provided as to what type of equipment, what can and cannot, funds that can and cannot be expended. So that's my concern. If you're using bond funds for bedding cages, if you're using bond funds for maintenance equipment for Grove Park, what type of equipment? Otherwise, if you go out and buy, let's say, a hoe or a shovel, then that's gonna be an inappropriate use for maintenance equipment for Grove Park. So that's all I'm asking. Because if we misspend the funds, this board is personally liable for repayment of those funds. Supervisor Stokes is on the safe side, because when it comes to, he'll make motions all day to expend monies, or he'll second motions all day to expend monies. But at the end of the day, when it comes time to pay the bill, he's gonna vote no. Why does he vote no? I can't answer that, but I do know that when you vote no to pay the bill, then that removes you from the liability.
Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I stated before, Mr. President, that at the class, that's when they told us about claims. And I think we looked at claims today. I was one of those who made the motion and voted for it. But to insinuate that this board is doing illegal activity is what this board needs to think closely about. And we have a supervisor that keeps saying that these board members are criminals. Now, we speak through our records. If you keep saying they're spending money wrongly, then sooner or later somebody's gonna look, and that is on the record. Now, you can't keep calling board member thieves and doing things illegally. You can't do that. Now, again, keep in mind that once you take a vote, everything is reviewed by legal people. They're not gonna guide us to do anything wrong. This man has not said he finna buy some shovels or anything illegal. He has not said he finna buy some computers or anything illegal. Then to put that on the record as though he's gonna do those kind of things, somebody just reading this record would think that we're conspiring to do things illegally. Now, you don't come in this meeting and call people crooks. You can't do that. And we got, anytime you hear that kind of nonsense, you got to refute it. Otherwise, when people start looking at it, they'll think it's so. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stokes. All right, we'll move on. We now have, we'll go to the budget.
Good morning, Supervisors.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, good morning.
Today, we're going to continue our discussion regarding the 2013-2014 budget year. We had our budget hearing on August 6th, and since that time, staff has gone back and revamped the budget, tweaked the budget. As you know, departments were asked to continue to reduce their budget by at least 5% in order for us to meet the priorities and issues that we see forthcoming in this budget year. That has happened. Staff has continued to tweak and reduce our expenditure line in order to meet our reduced revenues that we anticipate this year. We also continue to work closely with our financial advisor, Malachi Group, to continue to work with us to give us advice and also ways in which we can reduce our expenditures to meet our growing issues for this budget year. Before you, you have two books. A smaller book, which will give you the details of the budget, which Ms. Woods will go through to give you what our approach is toward this budget this year, and also a detailed line item budget of all the departments that fall under general fund. So we have an opportunity today to go through those and move forward as detailed as you wish today. We also would like to take this opportunity today to go over issues of priority for the board. And so Ms. Woods will lead us through that and then address the budget as you so wish today.
Is it the wish of the board that we're just going to review today and we need to come back on the 13th and actually vote?
Correct. But we hope today to come
I mean,
and
I want
fine
to make sure,
tune.
what do you want to accomplish today?
We hope to fine tune the budget today
Okay.
as far as make final decisions as to our approach to our priorities, any other priorities that the board would like to address in the budget. We do have to finalize some of the issues that the board has brought to us to address in the budget. For instance, each supervisor has provided some priorities for their district. We would like to go through those and be able to decide what do we want to fold into the budget for this year. And then we can make sure that you are on board with some of the recommendations that staff is providing in order to reduce and meet the needs in our budget this year.
Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I hope that we can fine tune the budget, but, you know, to approve it on the 13th, which would be the, almost the last day, there's nothing we can do at that point, because 15th about state law, we can do it come on a Sunday. And, you know, I just had some questions that I hope we can deal with that won't take as much time. And if I could, I want to start with the page 20 of the big book, where we deal with salaries and wages. And I see a whole lot of statutory fees. And I'm trying to figure out, here we got $375,000 for attending court, 001-112-5254. And I'm saying, who is that money going to?
The big book.
You're in the back section, so
I'm on page 20.
it's not the first page 20. The first part is the revenue, and after you pass the revenue, you'll have a green sheet, and then you'll go to the expenditure. So he's in the expenditure portion. 112 is the account number set aside for statutory fees. And which particular item did you have?
The $375,000, who is that going to?
That goes for circuit court and chancery court as it relates to attending court. That's a court-related fee.
I'm talking about, it helps us, it helped me. If we're saying $375,000, you're saying Barbara done, give us who gets what. It's a lump sum. And who's it going to? Is it going for witnesses? Is it going directly to them? Because I thought statutorily they could make it $75,000.
It's not going to the, it's the people that are attending court, not the,
You're talking about the witnesses,
and
or
the
paying for witnesses?
jurors.
No, that's another line item. $375,000. Who is it going to?
You'll pull up the names just a second.
It is going to Mrs. Carr and Barbara Dunn. It is a per diem to Barbara Dunn for circuit court and a per diem to Barbara Dunn for county court. She gets one of those for each day that they hold court.
Is it by statute, Greg? Yes. it's
But
not-
how much,
These are statutory, they are required by law, you get no choice.
how much of this 375 going to who?
I can only give you this year's number, so.
And along with Mr. Stokes, if
Well,
we
we
say
already
this is
rejected.
as a friendly,
About-
does that amount factor into the statutory cap? That's, yeah.
Through August of this year, Barbara Dunn has been paid $293,410 for.
Just out this fund? That's everything?
Correct.
Just at this fund?
This is out of the, this is.
Out of this money, yes,
This out of
this
this
line.
line, this line item in the budget.
And Mrs. Carter's getting paid $53,450.
And my question,
And then there was also a small payment, I think this is to Lafayette County for the hot tub drive? Yes, for $3,405.
Go
Because
ahead.
their court also handled part of the hot tub drive.
so my question is, that is paid to them for the offices that they hold. And is that amount a part of the statutory cap
That
on
is the amount
earnings?
that goes to them as a fee for which they pay for the running of their offices. Because remember, in this budget, you don't pay for her salaries and fringes for her employees. This is the money that she uses to pay for her salary and fringes and employee benefits, and also her
And out of all-
other office.
Yeah, and out of all of the money that's paid, quote unquote, to them, to their offices, they have to stay within the statutory
Correct.
limitations on what they can earn.
And actually, Barbara Dunn is retired, so hers is not even the $90,000 cap. Hers is less than 30, I think. She doesn't even make $30,000 a year. So any additional money that she doesn't spend on her staff or spend on equipment and supplies for her office, she returns to you annually.
So I guess maybe the response might be something like, so the circuit clerk is statutorily limited to a salary of whatever. And the $200,000 that we show her being paid goes to the operation of the office, salaries, et cetera, and so on and so on, because as it was presented, one would think that that particular elected official earns at least $200,000, okay?
In a typical court, yes, she gets at least that. Usually it's around 3. And that's why this budget line is at $375,000, because she will get the bulk of that, and Mrs. Carr will get a small portion for change report.
But to follow up on what you're saying, because there's got to be more money than this, because I think you said Ms. Carter only getting 50,000. And she has just as many, if not more employees as Barbara Dunn. So we know out her office, they get more than 50,000 in payment. Where the other money's coming, that's what I keep saying about this, but I come back to you. And that's why I told Dr. Walker, no matter how others, we have all this money generating, going everywhere, but we don't know who, what, or where. Somewhere down the line, supervisors should know all these questions and answers. Now, what other money? Because I know she's getting more than 300,000, but we know Barbara Dunn getting 300,000. What other money is she getting? Because it don't take all this kind of money to run that office.
And we have a report upstairs, Supervisor, which we can pull for you that shows the report that the circuit clerk files each year with the state auditor's office. It shows the revenues that she brought in.
That's what you told me that before, but you never give them to me. Every time I ask these questions, you tell me, I'm gonna get you this, I'm gonna get you that, but I never get it. And it'll help me if I could get it, and then I can examine, but it's just, and I can move on, Mr. President, because that's a long meeting. I'm saying that because I want to go to the supervisor's budget. And my concern is that we got requests for supervisors, but we're not in the budget. We had to request this, we vote on the budget, but we're never in. We got to now say, the budget is set, now supervisors want these things. So now we got to try to lobby to get people to say, well, we'll vote for that. These other people are in the budget. Now, when you look at the supervisor's budget, they're saying our budget is 900, projected this year, 996,000, which sounds like a lot of money. It's been $1.3 million. But then when you look at what's in our budget, and I can just start with,
What page are you on?
oh, I'm on page 1, when we first start on the general fund budget for fiscal year 2014, start with
Under the
supervisor.
second green here.
Okay,
You're just 20 pages back from where you were.
okay.
Right there. All right, when you look at our budget, all right, they got $40,000 for advertising, legal advertising. Then they got $53,000 for rental real property. Now, this is all supervisor's budget, but we're not getting that, and this will really get us. Then they got legal fees, $160,000. That $160,000, if it's legal, it should be on the legal department. It's inflating the supervisor's budget, look like we got more money than we using. Audit fees, $104,000. At best, that should come out the county administrator's budget. And don't mention $100,000 for AMR. All that's inflated in our budget.
And we don't get a nickel.
Yeah, you got to put these budgets in the right place. If Mr. Brand is the person who oversees AMR, then he should have this $100,000 wherever he is. It should follow him. And that's just correct budgeting. Now, if we keep putting things on, say, well, that's how they've been doing it, you know, it's not right. It's not right. So then, when we try to get things in, it looks like, well, the supervisor got too much money.
Yeah, it's back over here on page 1. Supervisor Stokes, I see where you're going with this, and I agree with this because of the fact that several years ago, when I looked at this particular budget, it has a lot of things under the supervisor's budget, but when I needed something that was going to cost about $4,000, we didn't have it in our budget because it was never allocated to our budget, and we did not have, so I'm hoping this year that we'll be able to put a discretionary fund in this budget. I requested that that be added, and I hope that the board votes for a discretionary fund for the supervisor that we can use at our discretion, to where we won't have to get everyone else to try to lobby everyone to try to use money that's in our fund and our budget. I would not dare try to tell you how to use money out of your, for District 5.
Well, what I'm saying, Mr. President, we shouldn't have to lobby.
Right.
That's a request from the supervisor. That should be in the budget.
Correct.
Like all this other stuff is in the budget. We don't know what it's going for and everything. Everybody got these budgets. But for supervisors, we don't want to vote on, we don't want to hear responsible. We got to lobby. Everything in here that you get. Dr. Walker saying that recreation program, money for the super. It should, I'm saying, Ms. Woods, put the supervisors in the budget. If Supervisor Graham saying the discretionary fund, it shouldn't be what this is what they're requesting out of what we got. Put us in the budget. And that's what we say every time. It's not in the budget. If it's not in the budget, that means we got to go all the way around the world trying to find money versus being in the budget from day one. And that's how it's done in government. Once you're in the budget, then you can legally spend this instead of trying to find money and everything else. And these people that shouldn't be in the supervisor's budget, take them out.
Before we go to Ms. Calhoun, I agree with that because of the fact that I know what I need in District 1. You knew what you need in District 5.
Absolutely.
I should not have to come to this board and beg for what I need in District 1.
Absolutely.
And it should be in my budget, and I should have a separate budget along with District 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's the way it should be set up, as far as I'm concerned. I know it has not, and maybe we can talk with our financial advisor to see how we do it, but there's too many things, like I've never gotten anything printed. There's a printing budget under the Board of Supervisors. I have no idea what we're printing. But I'll see where you're going with that. Ms. Calhoun, then we'll go back to Ms. Woods to see what we need to do to get that done.
Yes, sir. In order to change you all's concerns, or have this Board of Supervisors description of services and appropriations and what's headed under the title of Board of Supervisors, you would have to lobby the legislature to get the change. And I don't know if you could even do that because we operate under the, what is the gas fee? Gas fee 34. And Ms. Lewis, would you tell them what gas, the call letters that stand?
Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
Governmental Accounting Standards Board. We operate under those accounting principles. So that will not be changed. Secondly, we do not operate under the beat system of government. The citizens of Hinds County back in, I think, the early 90s, voted to operate under the unit system of government. What you all are describing to as far as having your own discretionary budget would come under a beat system of government, not unit system of government. And even under the beat system of government, the Board of Supervisors has to appropriate X amount of dollars to each beat. And with us being under unit, we definitely would be in violation of the law if we went back and decided that, you know, I'm gonna give Supervisor Graham a line item budget, I'm gonna give Supervisor Hunter a line item budget, I'm going to give Supervisor Calhoun a line item budget, I'm going to give Supervisor Walker a line item budget, I'm going to give Supervisor Stokes a line item budget. Then we will be in violation of the statute.
I totally disagree with everything that was just said for the last 4 or 5 minutes. I'd like the record to reflect that. I understand the unit system. I don't need anyone to explain anything to me. Dr. Walker, you're next.
Supervisor Graham.
Dr. Walker, you've been recognized. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, but I'm not finished.
I'm going with Dr. Walker.
Continue to be.
I am going with Dr. Walker. He is going to speak. Ms. Calhoun, I am going to run this board, not you. Not today. Dr. Walker, you have the floor. If you ask your button, then you can turn your button on.
I had it on, I
Okay.
wasn't finished with.
Dr. Walker, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, people, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay, now what was I gonna say? What I would really like to see today, and I think some good points are being made, but if the procedure we're gonna use today could be outlined, then I think we can get down to the business at hand. Some important things have been said, but if we could have some ground rules, maybe we can then move forward in a very constructive kind of way and address all the important things that we have there, because I have some concerns that I think are very legitimate. One being, Mr. President, if there are going to be some improvements made at the Hinds County Detention Center, what does our budget do to address that? You know, there might be some work at Part A and Part B that will cost approximately, whatever. We don't know what the grand jury report is going to say or what kind of directions we're going to have. But at some point, we need to begin preparing for what's going to be inevitable. It's going to cost us money to do some things. And the court's going to say, you do them. And you have no choice if you have to cut some other things out. And I think that if we can set some procedures to how we're going to go through the budget and then how we're going to address some concerns that are going to come up.
Let me just say this, and then we'll go to Ms. Calhoun. We've asked Mr. Bingham to look at the 2010 bond fund to see if that can be, I think he said it does not have to be repurposed for that particular fact or to use for that particular purpose for doing Pod A and Pod B. But he has not gotten back with me on that yet, and I'll wait for him to get back with us on that. Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, I would like for Ms. Woods and our legal advisors to confirm the statements that I made concerning GASP 34 and as well as the individual supervisors having the capability of being designated particular line items.
Yes, ma'am, according to our accounting standards and according to our state auditors, we have to report the expenditures for all 5 supervisors as a group rather than individually in our budget and our financial information. If, for instance, I'll give you an example on travel, at the board's discretion decided, well, each board member will use $2,000. We track it separately, but when we have to report it, we have to report it as a group. The budget for travel is $10,000. However much the supervisors spend, they spend it as a group.
Okay.
Now, some of the items under the Board of Supervisors are placed there because those are companies that were contracted directly with the board, and they report directly to the board on certain items, the auditors or the legal as teams that are hired by the board. That's why they're under the board's budget. If these contracts were entered under the board attorney's budget, then they would have to be, responsibility of the board attorney. But we have them according to the accounting procedures that we follow in the county government.
Okay, Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, again, we are taking statements and taking them to the extreme. We've all been in government before. Everyone dealt with budgets and everything else. And in no time did I perceive your statements as mean we going back to county bonds. We're not gonna sit up here and violate any law. Everybody know that. I think the statement he made was simply same as Ms. Wood just said. He said we'll put this group money, just like travel, group money, and individually understand our role. Now, with travel, everybody's saying, and we heard Supervisor Scott say many times, you got $2,000. No, we all got 10,000, but we respected 2,000 then. And that's the same thing he's saying. Whatever we do as discretionary, it would be respected. We're not talking about violating the state law, but as Board of Supervisors, we got to start having money in these budgets. And when it comes to the legislature, now I know, and everybody in here know that the legislature did not tell us that AMR is supposed to be under the Board of Supervisors. Now I want to see some legislation that say that. I want to see legislation that say that AMR under the Board of Supervisors budget, $100,000 supposed to be under the supervisor in this mandate. We know that's not true, so we got to stop making untrue statements up here and everybody taking us being for real. Now, again, no one's trying to suggest violating any state law. No one's trying to suggest going back to the days of the bonds. But what this supervisor saying is that what his needs in District 1 is different from mine in District 5. He know what he needs. We had to just let a person go from the rural area because we don't have enough employees. We need to work Jackson more. So how do I tell people who only have Jackson that people in Utica and Terry need some help also? So again, Supervisor Graham, I understand fully what you're saying. And as supervisors, we can put money for everybody else. They got t-shirts that's not needed. They got this and that, but we can't approve money to make sure we can help our citizens that we represent. Something is wrong with that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Ms. Calhoun.
Mr. President, what I understood you to say was we need our own discretionary line item budget. And my comments were, this board statutorily cannot have an individual line item budget. And that's basically what I have to say regarding the subject, because if we do go back with the line item budget, we would be in violation of the law.
Ms. Woods, what Dr. Walker wanted to do was to just outline where we can go, and so just tell us how we're going to get, where we need to go from this particular point. So we'll know what we're going to be discussing first, second, third, and fourth, and what we need to decide on, because I think the supervisors want to make some decisions today on the budget.
And basically, Supervisor, what I want to do is just briefly go over the assumptions that the budget was built on, take you to the areas where we made new decisions made on specific items.
Okay. So tell us where we need to be, and let's move on.
Okay, in that first section in the small book, this is where we have our general fund budget assumptions. The budget is based on 809 positions with salaries maintained at the current level. And of course, as we look at the things that the supervisor will address.
Let me ask you this before you go on, just to make positively sure about this one thing, because I want to make sure that we get it on the record, that if we were to put in this budget, which has been requested, a discretionary fund for supervisors, plural, meaning all five, that would not be illegal to do that for the supervisors, all of us to have a fund that we can actually use.
We would create a line item.
We would create a line item.
Contractual, for, consumer, depending on what you say
Right.
discretion. But I
So in
think
other
we
words,
did,
just like
try-
travel or anything, it may not be like travel, but what we're looking for is a fund to where all supervisors can use. For lack of a better term, it might need to be called something other than a discretionary fund.
Yeah.
But, what I'm trying to do is to get it to where, if we have something that, if Supervisor Hunter has something that he wants to support at Grove Park that's gonna take, $300 and is, within the rights and our attorneys say that we can do that, then Supervisor Hunter can get that $300. Or Supervisor Walker has something for $1,000 that he wants to support, down in Barham area, then he can get that. And that's, it's used from a one particular sum of money, not creating a beat system.
Instead of them saying it's not budget.
Instead of saying it's not budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Now go ahead, please.
Okay, as I was about to say, as we look at the things that have to be discussed later on, we will look at the different, salary increases requested at, $100 across the board and at 3% across the board. The budget, took under consideration 49 vacant positions not funded for a savings of $1,597,746. We have factored that into the numbers that we have to present to you. Our capital outlays are included, that are not included in the budget that must be addressed, total $11,419,529. Included in that amount is $4,268,750 that has been prioritized for consideration for funding. These
That's on capital expenditures?
Yes.
Okay.
These are the things that we will look at as we address the board to take under consideration. Four major priority areas: public safety, human services, inventory, and chancery building. Included in this budget is a 1.49% increase in our retirement expense.
What is that dollar amount?
Can you pull that up over there, Lord, the dollar amount on the retirement, so we can.
For the whole like fiscal year, you want to know how much?
The 1.49 increase in the retirement expense.
Okay, I love it. So for 11 months of this year, we have paid $3,086,435.09 to the retirement system out of just the general fund. And then the new figure with the 1.49% increase will be $3,132,422.80. So it's an increase of,
45,987
thank you.
and change.
How much? How much?
$45,987.88.
45,987. And that's a mandated increase?
Yes, it is.
And that's for 11 months, not 12. So you're looking at under $50,000.
That's for 11 months and 9 mil. 12
Also,
months would be more than that.
45,009 figure
It's for
11 months.
Okay.
Because that's the only figure, I don't have September.
So it'll be up from that,
Right.
yeah.
So you're talking about around $50,000 increase.
And that's an assumption that we'll have at least the same number of employees that we currently have.
and we'll have a reduction in votes, so that we'll change that number. Okay, also included in it is a cash reserve, request or recommendation that we look at a 3.550 increase in the reserve by $1 million. including, this budget also includes an overall decrease in general fund expenditures of 10%. It includes a 5% increase in employee hospitalization expense of 206,187.
Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead.
On this hospitalization, and I don't know, but help me. It's just what, about 3, maybe 5 employees that's really got the hospitalization up? Do we have any numbers?
I don't have a number on the, why the rate is at a certain level, those statistics, I don't know.
We do have anywhere from 6 to 10 that have very high dollar claims.
Are they still
And I
counting
don't-
employees?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They are still they're still either retirees or current employees, and that's $100,000 or more.
Now, the retirees, when is something done with Medicare some years back?
Yeah, I know when we grappled with this, with the city, there were many employees who of age, but not taking advantage of Part B.
Can we do something like that to reduce it? Cause I think when they did with the city, reduced it a whole lot because of.
But the majority of the high dollar claims are people that are not age appropriate for Medicaid and Medicare. They are not 62 or older.
How many retirees? That's what we deal with now, retirees.
I think we only have 10 retirees, the last time we looked, only 10
Okay.
on our insurance.
Out of those 10, you're saying they're not 60 plus, 62 years?
Out of the 10, you probably have 4, maybe, out of the 10, 3 to 4 that may be over 65.
So are those, some of those with the high claims?
No, sir,
The high claims are young people?
they're younger than 65, yes, sir.
And do they classify them as catastrophic illnesses?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, also, it includes a 9% decrease in funding of external agencies, and that as a savings of about $514,000. Includes a reduction in human service department due to 5 unfilled vacancies and 5 positions designated as non-essential by the state agency, creating a savings of $149,276 net of the reimbursement we received from human services.
Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, early on, this board was considering transferring those county employees that initially were state employees back over to the state. Can you give me a status report of Ms. Carter?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we did, since the board initially reviewed the human services employment situation, we have talked with the representatives there. It wasn't as simple or easy for the state to receive those employees on and transfer them from county employees to state employees. They would have to, of course, create positions. But since that time, what has happened, as Ms. Woods indicated, that there have been positions reduced due to attrition. So as positions were vacant, we did not fill them. And then upon those conversations, the state also gave us what they felt were non-critical positions. And from that list of positions, we had continued discussions with them, and we received that reduction. In that conversation, they felt they did not have enough time to, of course, petition the state and create new positions for county employees. So what we did was take the overtime attrition approach by not filling vacant positions and then not addressing the non-critical positions. Because as you know, we are in a funding agreement to provide staff for state function and human services. And since they described some of the positions as non-critical, we felt that if we're in this state of trying to reduce our budget, this would be a good approach to at this time, eliminate the non-critical positions, which will still leave us approximately, if I can volunteer. About 16 staff people still. Yeah.
15, yeah, about 15. I think they had 25 to begin with.
So you're funding 16 positions for next year.
Probably about 8 staff persons will still remain as county employees
Okay.
For next year.
for next year.
So you're funding, we're funding 8
Now,
positions.
they have moved approximately 2 people over to the state so far, and they're still awaiting approval for 1 additional, so that could be reduced.
Okay.
My question, you said that the state could not provide for the positions of the county employees. I guess my question is, why could they not provide for the position of the county employees? Because if we transfer them back to the state, the funds will go to the state. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it appears that that would cover the transfer of the funds that would be transferred back to the state would cover the positions. And I know you said it's not that easy, but I'm
Well,
trying.
from their perspective, that's the explanation I get from the state representatives. Certainly, as you know, we provide the funds to cover these employees, and we get reimbursed by them. So certainly, they are paying for these employees. So, from our perspective, we feel that, well, you're paying for the employees anyway. We don't understand the difficulty to now create positions on the state side. But they're saying it's not that simple from their side at this point. So now yes ma'am, I am having continued discussions with them because we can also approach, the funding in a different way. And so we're playing phone tag right now, so I haven't been able to finalize another approach to take. But in the meantime, since this is what we're presenting and with hopes to further bring some analogy to the situation.
Okay. Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Trying to stay with, this page, Ms. Woods.
Okay.
And it's something Dr. Walker mentioned there, he said based on 809 positions. 809 positions. Is that the total workforce?
That's the general fund portion of the workforce. It's not the total. Public Works has 100.
Okay, excluding Public Works.
Right, excluding Public
Okay,
Works.
now give us a breakdown out that 809.
Would like a breakdown of what, of departments that they're in?
Yeah, how many where, how many where?
Is that, they've written in the budget somewhere?
I have a form with that on it. Did I?
Yeah.
Is it in your packet?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've never known the answer to it. And I know it continues to change from day to day, but it's something that maybe we need to have on a monthly basis. Ms. Davis, while she's getting that,
Mr. I come back to it, I got minutes.
but let me just say one thing, Ms. Davis, while she's getting that, it shouldn't be very difficult for you to provide supervisors with a list on a monthly basis of current employees, how many left, how many retired, how many, we used to get that at the city all the time. How many have left, how many are retired, how many are terminated, how many we have totally, to where we can have that on a monthly basis, if you can just email it to us.
Well, we do provide that on a quarterly basis at this point, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, what we provide is the terminations, the resignations, the retirements, but as far as the number of current employees, we don't, but I can't.
Okay, I've
You
never,
would like that report?
yeah, I've never seen it, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, it's just that I had to take.
Insertion.
Okay. Now, I'd like to have an email, as to how many, so I'll know exactly how many employees we have, how many we're gonna have, how many have been terminated and everything. Dr. Walker had a quick question, then we're going right back to Supervisor Stokes.
Mr. President, I'm gonna have to leave, I'm gonna be back. I gotta meet with the superintendent at 10:30, that meeting was set before this, but it shouldn't be long.
Go ahead. Okay?
Two quick points. One is, we need, I think, monthly reports on the number of vacancies that's broken down by department, because I see something not interesting, but it's interesting and funny that takes place. There are some areas where they keep a large number of vacancies, 10 months. And then they come in saying, look, hey, look what I found. And they get cars and other things that are not programmed to the budget initially. And I think that if you're gonna keep all those vacancies there, then maybe you don't need to begin with as many positions as we keep going. The other thing, Mrs. Wood, is that when you have percentages and stuff, like 9% decrease in funding of external agencies, what does that 9%? What's the figure there? Ms. Ritter?
514,593.
And then the 10% in the general fund expresses the decrease, and then we'll know what the exact figures are.
Okay, well, I can give you that.
But, Ms. Parker, if we could get monthly breakdowns on not just the number of employees, but the number of vacancies, because when you look at positions, when you talk about funded positions, when you talk about employees, but the number of vacancies is a completely different kind of thing. That's money that's just going to waste, program money that's not being used.
Okay? Continue, Ms. Woods.
All right, then, moving right along, what we have in this, that she just passed out was the employee distribution by department. And it shows you the, total that, the department employees that they have part-time, which is included in the total. It shows you the vacancies that they have and that have been eliminated from the budget, and what the budgeted number of employees by department.
Well, the only thing about this is it does not show, and I'll give it Ms. Parker later to find out. I'm interested in a number of people that's eligible to retire, or they can retire.
All right, this is, we do have a report up.
And this does not include the number of people that were terminated during this particular period or time period as well. Okay.
It's just the number of employees that the budget is built on by department. I
Okay.
think Supervisor Stokes had asked the question before he
Okay.
departed. Okay, the level of expenditures on the next page, for the general fund revenue and expenditures.
What page are you on?
Just the next, one page over. I'm still in the assumptions, I'm just on the second page.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm in the right section. I'm on the first section under budget for all funds 2014.
General fund assumptions, very first, small.
Page 2, a little bit.
All right.
Okay, the proposed revenues are 53,330,422, and the proposed expenditures are 53,159,699. And that's what our numbers will be for this that we're proposing as it relates to the budget. There is a small savings that are anticipated just from the revenues that will come in for that particular year, along with the beginning surplus from the previous year. As it relates to public works, their budget was based on 100 positions with salaries maintained at the current level. There were 9 vacant positions not funded for a savings of $425,452. And the budget is funded at the current millage rate. And of course, as we did the protest hearings, the millage, the SS value decreased, the SS value decreased by 0.50, whereas previously it was just 0.1. So those adjustments have been made in the revenues of all budgets that have millages.
Ms. Callum, then Dr. Walker.
What is the total public works budget?
Okay, I can give you that, it's in the same book. In the road budget, Public Works is projected to have $5,010,823.20. bridge. And their bridge budget is 1,314,449.67.
I think she just came up with those.
I just, their budget, detailed budgets are in the big book, and I just went to the
Okay.
total and told you out of the big book.
All right,
What
Dr.
those
Walker.
two budgets were. After you pass the general fund budget, you have the public works budget, bridge and road, and then the bond chief fund. It's in the big, if you'd like to see the details, in the big book.
Go ahead, Dr. Walker.
One of the recommendations that had come to us was maybe 15 to 18% decrease in the amounts of those contracts. I don't see that figure or issue addressed anywhere.
If I may address that, no, that has not been addressed. I believe that measure is a measure that is to be incorporated in phase 2 of the proposal. I'm correct, Mr.
That's right.
Mr. Bingham? Because that's a negotiating, time-consuming process, and so that would not accommodate us in the time frame in which we have to address the budget.
How many
So it's a measure
contracts?
that will be taken throughout the year.
How many contracts do we have?
I do not know the number.
And what's the dollar amount of those contracts? And that's information that
Now,
should be,
we can tell you what we have for contract services, what those total contracts are.
yeah, that should be ready available to this board. I mean, a printout could be generated as quick as you can pop your finger to show who has contracts, the amounts of those contracts, and the duration of those contracts.
Now, I think our legal department is working on a system that would have the end period of the contracts. We have a listing of what we're spending on contract services and what the total of that amount is.
And not cutting across you, Mrs. Wood, but we're going to experience at least a $4 million decrease in the revenue that's available to us for the fiscal year that begins October 1. And now, right now, in fact, we've known that for some time, and the process of addressing it should have begun well before now. I mean, and we need every dollar we can get. We missed the opportunity to put in our advertisement on hearing possible consideration of possible tax increase. So we're locked out of that now. We can't do it. So we're gonna have to find some revenue internally.
Okay, Ms. Callen.
Yes, Mr. Bingham with Malachi made the recommendation, proposed recommendation, that we reduce our contractual services by 15%, even though when they initially looked at it, you mentioned the 18%, but you came back and recommended the 15%. Do you have the?
And we increased it beyond that now. Since that recommendation was made, it's gone up even more.
Do you have the information on the total amount? Because you made the recommendation, do you have the list of contracts and the total amounts of those contracts available?
No. I don't have the total amount of contracts. I mean, the county has been working on loading contracts into a system, but I don't think there's a repository that exists where you can punch a button and know every contract that you have, which is another scary thing for us, because you could be paying on a contract
Correct.
long expired. So we're anxious to get to that part of the research on it.
Ms. Prince has been working on that, and it's a long process because of the fact that some of them expired, some of them have gone on for 20 years. So we started that, she started that process, and she's well into it
Yeah.
right now. But we recognized that several months ago.
Yeah.
Before that, we had, in fact, over the years, we had zero until she started working on this particular project, and she has it done. It's on the computer, correct me if I'm wrong, to where each supervisor has their own pen where they can go in and look and see what she's loaded so far, but she is by no way finished.
It's a cloud-based system, and you're able to access it from anywhere that you have internet access. Currently, all the supervisors should receive an email inviting them to develop a password to log on and to see it. What we can do, probably the next executive session, or whenever the board desires, is actually maybe do a short tutorial and go through it, so everybody will have an opportunity to see exactly how it works.
Yeah, well, I've used mine, so I know what's in there, and I know that you still have a long way to go with them as far as computers, contracts. Okay.
Let me just say one concluding thing on this matter. We do know what some of the contracts are.
Right.
And we don't need to have this exhaustive, completed list to begin our work. We can start with what is known, because finances will be just that critical an issue going forward. And I would think that we need to, the ones we know we got, let's start dealing with them, and then make a decision not to enter into any more until we get a handle on what we've got.
Greta, did you have something you wanted to answer that?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, could you make it available to the clerk's office? Because at the beginning of each fiscal year, one of the things that the accounting department tries to do is every time one of your contractual service contracts comes up for payment, we take that contract that is in your minutes and attach it to that first claim of each fiscal year. So if she's got it more readily available than me having to go dig for it, that would really be.
Well, I think that it is, because what it does, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sheree, that it automatically notifies you when the expiration, it can give you a 10, 20, 15-day window before the contract expires, so we will know. Am I correct in that?
Yes, and I think we've tried to set most of those for 90 days out, so we have plenty of time to put it on the board's agenda and to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
Some of that, excuse me, ma'am, some of that reconciliation that gets missed, and it's not uncommon, it's not, this is not an uncommon occurrence. The reconciliation between the clerk's office and staff is where some of the vacuum ends up happening. You might have something that, may have gotten misplaced in the file on this side, so I think that reconciliation is really important.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Supervisor Hunter.
One of the things that dealing with the contract, how we handle contract compliance. You got different types of service contract.
And that's what I was trying to get up on.
It should be, if we monitor contract compliance, that drills down to the process of every payment that we make on a contract. It should indicate whether the status of the contract, the license, insurance, all the requirements that go with that contract should be indicated, or that check shouldn't be printed. So we need accountability on compliance.
I can answer one part of that, and that was one of the reasons why we came up with this procedure, is there was no compliance. Let me rephrase that. There was no one established to check on whether or not the contracts are actually being carried out to the form of the contract, or to the sections of the contract where it states that you need to do something. There was no enforcement of the contract, or making sure the individuals actually carried out what they're supposed to be doing, as far as I know, on some of them. Yes. Ms. Calhoun.
Also, in addition to what Supervisor Hunter has stated, I feel that any invoice submitted for contractual services rendered should come back to this board for approval. We have not had that process established. And as a result, invoices are probably going directly to the Chancery Clerk's office. And this board is not aware that invoices have been submitted to the Chancery Clerk's office for payment.
But those invoices, ma'am, are reviewed by Ms. Woods and Ms. Davis before they come back to the clerk's office to be placed on the docket.
Right, but they're not coming back to this board.
Once you've approved the contract, I believe that it's up to Ms. Davis and Ms. Woods to verify that you're in compliance with that.
But I think in the process, those contracts we should be aware of what contracts are being paid. A lot of times, we don't know, even though they're going to you, the invoices are going to you. We don't know what's being paid, so I think, when an invoice is submitted, that this board should be made aware of what the services are that have been rendered.
To that, okay. I just want to just follow up on what Supervisor Calhoun was saying. I agree with that because I went to Greta and asked her, Greta, are there any invoices being submitted to you that we have not seen? You remember me asking you that? And the answer to that was not from your department, but from other departments that are submitting invoices that never see us. So it wasn't from your department, it was from other departments on that.
That's right.
But you can answer.
Well, to comment on that, there are departments that do not get all invoices. I only sign off on invoices that have been approved and sanctioned by the Board of Supervisors. Other elected officials sign off on their own invoices and submit them to accounting for processing. As far as the invoices for contracts that I do authorize on behalf of the board, I just want to make sure I got an understanding. We would like to see those invoices prior to them being processed.
And the work certified, because there were invoices being submitted to the Chancery Clerk's office via whatever department. And we have no evidence that the work was actually done.
Now,
Let me just cut you off one second.
And I'm not saying just you. I think that we should have another system of check and balance in place.
I think we have that because you have a sheet that every time work is supposed to be done, didn't you generate a sheet to where when work is done, when work is completed and everything, don't you already have that?
Yes.
It's more like a quality assurance
That's
program.
right. From our purchasing vendor process, we have what we do call a quality assurance process to verify the work that has been contracted or rendered by those vendors are being performed at a satisfactory level. In addition to the contracts, I believe that Supervisor Calhoun was mentioning, all invoices that come before me and reviewed, I do make sure that the service that is expected on that invoice have been provided to the board.
Yes, but all invoices do not.
But all invoices do not come to me.
Correct.
Because there are many department heads that sign off on their own. Mr. Fair signs off on his things, Mr. Stokes signs off on their things. IT signs off on theirs.
And again, I think we should,
And the board pays the bill.
That is correct.
Mr. President, when you recognize me, I have a suggestion I think will get us out of this.
Okay, but let Ms. Calhoun finish up and then you're next.
Okay.
basically what I'm saying is, if we could put in place a process where if you have not reviewed the services rendered, and you have not signed off on that particular invoice, I would like to see the Chancery Clerk's office kick it back to you. There are many contracts that the board hire businesses to perform services. And some of the services that they've been hired to perform, we don't receive any evidence back that those services have actually been performed. So I would like to see those invoices, and I also would like to see the evidence of the work other than invoice description. You give a description of the services provided, but we don't see any results from those services provided. So I would like to see a system put in place, again, where there is a check and balance, and we'll know that the work was performed, and here's evidence of the work performed.
Can I get a clarification on that?
I
I mean, I understand what you're asking for, but you also have 4 appointed persons. And they have always been, the person who reviews their item. In other words, Ms. Davis reviews the stuff under her jurisdiction, Mr. Freeland's reviews bridge and roads
Let me just say, I'm
You're not wanting
specifically,
Ms. Davis to review Mr. Felix's stuff.
no, because she wouldn't know. But we still
But those
need,
four appointed still remain as the oversight for their,
let me just come out and say what I'm specifically referring to. I'm specifically referring to the board's attorney's office.
Okay, Dr. Walton?
And we know that there have been some problems.
There's a need for some kind of county clearinghouse for all contracts and things, because I've seen some documents where individual department directors have taken the discretion of reducing the amount that some folk would have to pay to the county. And I think they owe every bit and more, and it didn't come before this board. In the final analysis, it's the board that has the liability. And if things don't come before this board, then it's out of whack. I thought I had made a recommendation before when the Davis Road Park matter came up. And I found that the supervisor in that district and the maintenance director had been given authorization for groups to use that facility. And I said that all contracts needed to come from whoever the point of contact was to the legal department and then be forwarded to the board. Now, Mr. President, if a motion is needed at the appropriate time, I don't think
We already have that,
right now.
we already have that as a motion to where all contracts go directly to legal before they're brought back to the board.
Okay, and that, it needs to be enforced.
Yeah.
Because it's not being enforced now. Now, quickly, Mr. Hunter is talking about contract compliance. It needs to be compliance with all kinds of contracts, but there needs to be, as you pointed out, someone designated to be our compliance person, because if there's not compliance with the contracts, or the terms of the contract, this county could end up having to pay a whole lot of money. And we need to do that ASAP. And I would recommend that time we finish with this budget thing, that we move, into that, and maybe our next regular meeting or whatever, because some thought needs to go into how we're going to proceed from this point. But this is an area where the county has a whole lot of liability exposure if we're not doing the kinds of things that we need to do. Just let somebody use that park, they get hurt, and we'll have a multi-million-dollar lawsuit right smack dab in our laps.
Ms. Calhoun?
Supervisor Walker, I agree with everything that you just said, but I wanted to make a differentiation there. The county may pay out a whole lot of money, but and if we pay out a whole lot of money, and again, that money has been misspent, this board then takes on the personal liability, individual. So the county will pay it out, but the state auditors are gonna come back and say, well, somebody got to pay this money back. And the auditors are not gonna go to the taxpayers. They're gonna come to us for appropriating those funds.
Okay. Ms. Woods, we're back to you. We're gonna try to move along.
On the next page, you see a summary of the proposed budget and the amended and projected budget. And I just want to highlight on that particular page simply that we're beginning with a working, we're proposing a working cash balance of $7,320,109. From that amount, we are proposing a reserve of 3.550, which leaves us 3.770,109 to address what we see as some of our capital needs and other problems. Now, if you turn to the next section.
We're still in the blue book?
In the small book.
All right.
And if you turn to the second section, you will see the capital outlays. And I wanted to point out there that our capital improvement priorities, as I mentioned earlier, total at $4,268,750. If you turn to the second page, you will see, the second page, you will see what those priorities are. They include the Jackson and Raymond detention centers. The first two top priorities are capital improvements to Part A and B, allocating 1.5 million for each pod. Then you have other capital needs for the detention centers as well. The water tower at the Jackson Detention Center, the air handling unit at the Jackson Detention Center, the coolers at the Jackson Detention Center, freezer, the elevators at the, two elevators at the Jackson Detention Center that are the service elevators separate from the other elevators. The AC unit at the Jackson Detention Center and the chiller at the Raymond Detention Center. The jail, which is the top priority, their total is $3,660,000. And then the second priority would be the human service building at Jackson, where there's a need to replace the chiller, carpet, interior sheetrock, and other services for Jackson at a total of $290,000.
Let me ask you a quick question, Rob. I see, I understand Pod A and Pod B, but then down here you say something else about another need for the jail, and that's my first question. And my second question is, how was this prioritization done? Who prioritized this list? Was it done on a needs assessment, or was it done, was there a procedure or policy? Or what type of analysis was done to develop this list?
I can address that, Supervisor. These needs were brought to me by our maintenance department. And these issues are issues that have been long-standing, so they just didn't occur over this year's period, but they have been issues over the last several years that we have been deferring. And so in working with staff and trying to put together those issues that need to be addressed, and as far as maintenance-related issues, we put first priority to our jails in anticipation to, of course, the issues that have been confronting us regarding to our jail center. Human services building has been long-standing issues over the last several years. As you know, a couple of years ago, we fixed the foundation problems, which foundation problems led to other problems in that building, which led to roof issues that were repaired last year. So this year, we want to get to the third phase of the repairs, or the after effects from some of the damages that occurred from foundation and roof issues.
Okay,
So that's how the priority list was created.
I'm just looking at the priority list and see where you have a walk-in freezer, and that's of a higher priority, if I'm looking at this correctly, than replacing the air conditioner at the Jackson Detention Center.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, they're not in
They're
this.
not listed in priority, and under the first priority section, they're not listed by priority in that first
Okay,
group.
right.
So this is,
That's a group of first priority.
Yes.
so it's not listed by priority?
Yes, sir.
Within
Okay,
the
I got
group is not listed by
Thank
priorities.
you, Ms. Calhoun.
The roof replacement,
With the services building.
For the Wilson Boulevard location, inventory.
that doesn't, I guess it doesn't.
And election is out there as well. Our voting machines are maintained in that building.
I was gonna ask him, but I guess it's too late, if it could have been covered, the repairs could have been covered by our policy, but I guess not.
The insurance policy. We did do an assessment, if you're speaking of some of the storm issues we've had over the last year. We have assessed all roofs, and the insurance company did not feel that that was a damage by any of natural causes.
Okay, continue, please.
And our fourth priority there also was the upgrade of the phone system. We had several departments that came about the phone system, but we looked at the cost of upgrading in the Chancery building as a total. So this is how we comprise the $4,268,750 that we were asking to be taken under consideration, either through debt service, which there will be resources in the debt, in the general fund that could help assist with the debt service. Also, if we consider debt services, we also looked at our bond fund, our debt fund, and saw that next year in 14, that amount would go down some in what we're paying in debt service.
Okay, Supervisor Hunter and Supervisor Calhoun.
Looking at the Jackson Raymond Detention Center to $1.5 million. I'm a little concerned about those numbers because we already know that we're spending approximately 2.5 million on, Part C. And it would probably come under a different circumstance, but this number seems to be a little bit lean when you have to incorporate the exact same structures.
Well,
They have basically the exact same needs.
in talking with Mr. Harrington, we figured some of the things that are done in Part C would not necessarily have to be done in A and D because Part C was, destroyed through the riots. But they are handling some of the retrofitting and so forth as we go along. So this was just looking at it from that perspective.
But are we allowing for the housing of the inmates while these units are down in these numbers?
No, and that's something that we will have to look at as to how we would house the inmates.
And then also,
Maybe take one unit at a time.
And we're currently paying for the inmates who will be in Part C, right? Okay.
now, when we get down to the bottom of this capital outlay, where do we show the ability to debt service this amount? How much would it cost and how long would it turn?
We did do a schedule for, just based on a 5-year, and I know that, it may vary from year to, depending on how you, finance it and the number of years you finance it as well as the, interest rate. But I think with that amount, we were looking at just, right at $1 million, in debt service.
Now, the 4.268750, it doesn't include the 914, the other needs on the other sheets?
No, it does not. It does not. It does not include the 914. Those would be priorities that we would have to take under consideration. Because to bring these on, we would have to increase that amount in debt service.
Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, on yesterday, the telephone system in the circuit court building kept going out. You literally could be talking on the telephone and the telephone conversation would drop, internet would go out. I see Mr. Bryant here this morning. And what was the problem? I mean, it happened just more, I think, of 2 or 3 times.
There's been two things happened. There was power right here on this pole that affected, there's one cut off when the power flicked on and off. And then our battery backup system over there has gone out. And we had to plug it into the normal outlet. And that's what we're in the process. I told this Davis yesterday, trying to get the price of replacing this battery backup.
So that's another capital need.
We're hoping that part there will be only about 3,000.
Oh, okay.
It's just
Let me see.
It's like a big battery backup.
Okay. Before you go any further, let me just ask this question. At one board meeting, we requested this information. I don't know if you have it or not, but you have here that, or Ms. Parker provided, that we have 35 people with 35 people with 25 years or more that can retire. Were you able to check on those numbers for me to determine what would happen if we offered early retirement? Okay, we need to do that if we possibly can. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. Also, under the capital outlays listing on Exhibit A2 and A3, we do have items that are not considered in the board. There are smaller items, and there are things that we're not recommending at this time be taken under consideration. One is a vehicle listing, and we would like to allow adequate time for the whole fleet to be analyzed by our central repair and maybe come forward with some type of vehicle recommendations at a later date, which could be more comprehensive. So though A2 and 3 we are not addressing at this time. The last item was the emergency radio system, and that is one that also we're not making a recommendation on at this time, or giving more time for that area to analyze how it would address the radio system. I think our financial advisor was working on that.
You can take that number and add it up or take it up a couple $1 million, or at least make it to around 10 million is what it's gonna cost.
Okay.
While we're on
Or just under 10 million.
10 million?
Yes.
Can I add one thing to the capital improvements plan financing?
Yes.
Part of the village? We did run numbers on, the first one just said on these capital improvements, especially the things related to the facilities of the public safety facilities, the jail, what have you. Those facilities can and should be financed for more than, an equipment financing program, 17 years. So what we did was, if you aggregate all of the capital expenditures on this total capital improvement program, $11 million, we ran numbers at $11 million. And if you issue a longer term bond, you could have a lower annual capital outlay, at least for now, roughly about less than $700,000 for the $11 million piece. The way we look at this capital improvements plan is that this is just the beginning, and we really haven't had time to really grind out a long-term capital improvements plan. So your capital improvement plan is going to increase over the course of the next few years. So that number is going to get greater. So, so we really got to be creative about how the funding mechanisms for it.
So is it your recommendation that we address all of the capital needs at one particular time, and then to lower the amount of how we're going to service the debt as it relates to that?
That's correct, because there are two things. I mean, if you, right now, you can finance it for less if you extend the term. And then secondly, the cost of capital is going up. So as you move down the road.
Well, I agree with that, because we're never going to get through this capital list here, just piecemealing it one at a time. We'll be here 50 years trying to do 1 or 2 per year, and we'll never get it done. Ms. Calhoun?
Mr. Bingham, I agree with you 100%, because the manner in which we are going about even financing projects for assisting some of the smaller towns should be included maybe in that capital improvements plan, if that's what the board wants to do. Otherwise, the source of funding that we're drawing from is going to kill economic development in Hinds County. And once we kill economic development, any economic project that we have is dead. Because with some of the projects, we have to have matching funds. We have to match federal government requirements. And if we take away the ability for this board to have matching funds for, let's say, a $40 million project, then we have literally killed the project. And there is no economic development in Hinds County.
Supervisor Hunter?
I'm sorry.
I said, I agree. I mean, you have to have a plan, how you're going to capitalize projects. I mean, we're saying the same thing across the board. That's the purpose of a capital improvements plan, so you can take a look and you can try to plan for what you're going to capitalize.
Okay, Supervisor Hunter.
Dealing with the capital improvements, like, for instance, dealing with the detention center, since it's such a large entity and item by itself, and we was contemplating on even talking one time of building a new facility, maybe we could isolate that facility on a separate plan instead of incorporating it with other capital improvements, that gonna have a short lifespan. However, when you talk about trying to do, small items for small towns that have been neglected and left out for so many years, you only have one time to try to, one chance to try to improve these little small areas. When I sat down with the public work director yesterday, and we discussed item that we trying to go through the, what's the name of the program? NPO Metropolitan Program. We was talking about $2.5 million that we're trying to bring into the Byron Clinton Carter. We talked about areas that we're trying to, that would need to be expedited, expeditious. But to say that you ask for a batting cage for children that need the exercise, that need the program, that's not eloquent enough to be worthy to try to find a reasonable solution. Those are my concern when you don't want to help the least of these. It just concerned me about, do we understand our purpose here of serving the people with the basic needs of Hinds County? It sends a message. Do we really have our priorities straight? I know we was drilled about in one instance that we didn't take priority on what we're gonna do at the detention center. I think that we need to just understand that we got one county, one mission, to make it all accessible to all the people.
Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Calhoun, then we'll try to get to the part of the budget that we need to think about making some decisions on. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let me just make one comment. I think what I was saying was that if we again sit down and make the determination what our capital improvement items are, including the smaller towns, we could derive a better result than killing economic development in Hinds County. Economic development is the basis for growth. Economic development is the foundation for increasing our taxes. If we take away our ability from being able to attract business industry into Hinds County, then we have nothing. But in reference to building a new jail, I don't know if Supervisor Hunter, if I may ask you the question, if you had reference to building a new facility, we were told by the experts that the facility that we have is structurally sound. And if we go in and upgrade the facility according to the standards of code, then we could do that and provide a safe and secure jail facility without having to expend a whole lot of money. So that's why we have taken the route to upgrade pods A and B. Likewise, we also have the ability to, in which Supervisor Graham has advocated for a long time, we have the capability of expanding our existing jail facilities. So that is why we looked at renovating pods A and B.
Okay,
Right.
let's get to,
Let's move to the next section.
let's move to the money issues.
And that'll be the money issues, and if you'll go back, 7 pages in that section, the next section in that same book.
Under what?
Still in the small book?
In the small book, you on the third.
1A, or A1?
No, go on down some, go on past the third green sheet. And then go 7 pages back, and you'll get to the, specific issues.
Is there a number page?
Okay, if the page will be number 2, yeah, 2. The third section, between the third green sheet.
Third section,
Gave up.
third section.
Don't look like this.
Just didn't have anything at the top.
We need tabs on these, so it'll make it easier.
Just
They're letting you get a copy this morning.
You're all making excuses.
All right, this is the sheet where we would like to see if we can get some consensus on what the board would have us to go ahead to include in the budget. The first we have under Supervisor Stokes, he had discussed salary increase of $100 across the board under the, for the members under the Board of Supervisors staff, and that would be a cost of $397,260. For as it relates to public works, it would be $155,484. Also, just to skip, if you go down to Supervisor Graham, we have also a salary increase across the board at 3%. And that 3% for the Board of Supervisors staff would be $250,546.88. And I omitted public works, but the public works in that category would be $102,891.91. So, for those two options, we would like the board to give us direction on, would you like us to move those items to the budget? One or the other?
Put funds A and B under my
Okay.
That could be an option, with a 1% increase, a 3% increase, the poor gets relatively poor, although they make a little bit more money. And the people who make the big bucks, get a big whopping amount. If you make $60,000, your salary is $60,000, and you get a 5% increase, that's $3,000. But if you are at $10,000 and you get a 5% increase, that's $500, and it's not fair. So maybe if we could take an amount and give an equal dollar figure to every employee, I can embrace that.
Let me make a comment to that. I'm the person that made that request. I'm not married to the 3%. I'm only married to that we need to take care of our employees.
Good.
That's the only thing I'm married to. And yes, but we want to make sure Porter speaks on this as well, because we want to make sure that we're still following the guidelines as what we're doing as a relationship and even considering this. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, from the staff point of view, we recommend $100 across the board, because I totally agree with what Supervisor Walker said, that it certainly gives a better push for our employees, low income or low salary employees.
So, I mean, the 3% was just either or, so it really doesn't matter as long as we take care of it, okay? Any other, how do you want to handle this board? We want to go down this list. as option one. We have option one, option two, or how do you want to, we want to put on the entire thing all together, or what's the pleasure of this board as it relates to all these particular issues? Ms. Calhoun?
Actually, I would like to see before we vote on these items that are, that Mr. Bingham look at the items that are listed and provide us with a list of items that can be included under the capital improvements plan. Or are you talking about totally from the general funds budget?
Mr. Walker, Mr. Bingham, come to the podium, please.
Yeah, and I can help him out because I can shape my list and just accept that everything can't be done. The first time or one time, but I'm willing to cut out some stuff that will make your thing easier.
Well,
Mr. President, may I do that?
Yes.
Okay, maintenance and ground upkeep and maintenance. The maintenance department has begun to address that. Okay, let's just hold their feet to the fire and we can take 10 off. Update pay scale, which is the same that Supervisor Graham and Stokes have dealt with. I can scratch 9 off and support whatever comes out. Provide security cage area for control stations. When we do the work on the detention center, let that be incorporated into that, so just to take that out.
One of the things, if Mr. Bingham could just quickly, whenever he gets an opportunity, as quickly as he possibly can, tell us what we can use, or where we're going to be able to use this money out of the 2010 bond. If we can use that, I think all of our capital needs as it relates to Part A and B are going to be handled out of that, and does not need to come out of the general fund.
It's a general obligation bond. I want to try to clear something up about these designations of purposing and repurposing of bonds. The county has there's a general obligation statute that you issue, I would say 100% of your debt through. And so the GO statutes, for whatever purpose you issue bonds, all of the other purposes that you can think of is going to fall under that statute, right? So you have a GO bond. Now, sometimes people will say, well, we want it specifically for this, we'll call it a special purpose bond. But unless there is some type of special assessment attached to the revenue, and revenue is the key word for repaying the debt service, then you can use it for general obligation purposes. So, Kim, you guys can just confirm what I'm saying with respect to the GO statutes and GO bonds. That's how the general obligation bond is debt issue that is to be repaid for the general operating purposes of any governing authority. It's a tax exempt bond status.
The general obligation, basically, those types that you can set millage.
You can set, you see, the repayment of the bond, you're right, is generated through the taxes, that's right.
Through tax.
That's correct.
And the revenue bond is that there has to be some source that generates revenue to retire that debt.
That's correct. That is the distinguishing difference. One is paid through the assessment of taxes, and one is paid through the payment of revenues.
Or fees.
Or fees.
so at the end of the general obligation bond, if you increase the millage, the debt service that general obligation bond, that millage decrease when that bond expires.
Come off.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So now we are past, and I heard Ms. Calhoun, with Dr. Walker, that we are past the public hearing, and we need to do a millage increase.
Yes, yeah, we can't do it now, so that's right. I mean, not fine, but we can't do it now.
So it's down to BMI.
Yeah.
You know, body mass index.
Yeah.
Get trimmer.
Yeah,
Is what we got.
right.
In the revenue,
We just have to get skinny to meet revenue that's coming in.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Woods informed me that there may be something special about the GO bond, the 2010. I don't understand what it might be yet. Are you aware?
No, I think originally when the 2010s were done, they were done under that, economic, the GO zone,
Yes.
but they weren't, when they were actually done, they were not GO zone bonds. Okay, so originally the money was set up to be used in that GO zone from the Katrina stuff.
But they weren't GO zone bonds.
But they were not GO zone bonds.
No, because they're general obligation
So,
bonds.
and
it's a
they're
general obligation.
Yeah.
bonds, yes, and they are
Miss,
available for.
How much money do we have in the 2010?
Repairing, building, restricting, all that. I mean,
You can repair pod C or B or A or whatever, yeah,
correct, those are available for that,
yeah.
because they were gonna use it
Yes,
for.
so we got about 2 million.
You know, so if you're repairing Justice Court, there's no difference in shifting it from one building to another.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
all specific to building.
You
But
have,
I think in his documents related to that bond, because they tried to recover bond at first, they didn't specify the product.
but if they weren't issued as recovery bonds, then you can't be held to it. We might, Kim, we're gonna need your help on sorting out just that language. You're okay, with one caveat, that the language that's in the bond doesn't need some adjusting, but Greta's saying they were not issued as GO zone bonds. Then I think that's,
Specifically gave reasons for your projects, because that was the intent initially to have.
I don't think the actual general resolution stipulated.
Okay, y'all need to get together and work that out.
I'll get you a final
and
answer.
get so we can know what we're doing up here.
right.
Ms. Calhoun, and then we're gonna go back to this list so we can, make some decisions on this stuff. Okay, all right, let's go back to, you can take the part off of my list, for the part for the lobbyists. I don't see that everyone has,
Mr. President, I had not finished my list.
go ahead. You haven't finished, Kevin?
No, I think you can take, 5, staff development for Board of Supervisors. I never said that, although it ended up on the list.
Which one?
Number 5, I didn't say that, and I just said, that there's a need for some training money for county employees, regardless of where they are. Some customer service stuff and some other things.
Okay, but they didn't put a dollar amount with that either.
No,
Okay.
and,
What was that? I'm sorry, what number was that?
I think a performance and staffing assessment will be needed, because we got a whole lot of people with these big titles who are not doing the things, and we're top heavy in a whole lot of clerical positions, and have not made the transition to the technologies that are available, and we need to do something about that. And the youth employment thing, that's written in blood. And with the county, the engineering public works, my concern is, that sometimes there's a need to shoot grades and stuff. And, we may not be able to get to the county engineer in time. And therefore, when folk go out to dig a ditch to empty into a primary, creek or what have you, instead of it sloping down, it slopes up. And I saw one instance in that regard.
We have that ability, we just don't have a certified surveyor, but we have people on staff who can shoot grades, and we have the equipment to shoot the grades.
Okay, well, I got an area where grade needs to be reshot.
Okay.
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 Okay, so.
Is that on your list?
Yeah. Ma'am,
1, 2, and 3, you really want to remain.
1, 2, 3. You got it. And, I think there needs to be some bona fide program, an alternative to incarceration of inmates, and then we need to get with the judges on that. They do a good job of cutting grass and stuff like that, but I don't know whether there's a real bona fide program embraced by the judges where people can be sentenced to do some work instead of us paying for, and jail. Medical and food and housing, clothing, all of that. Guards. Yes, sir.
Okay.
We still wanted to leave on the hiring of county engineer, that's why I'm gonna make sure.
We have a county engineer.
Yeah, well, let's use the county engineer for some of these projects. I know it might be in District 4, which is not my district, it's the People's District. One of the complaints I've gotten is that there are some grades, and I've been out while late and so have seen water ponding when it needs to be flowing.
Okay, all right. Does any other supervisor wish to go up and down their list?
I'll be glad to. Mr. President, on number 8, the fund stew pot, I can wait and see what the fund balance look like. I think we need to do something to deal with the homeless. And stew pot, the only ball game right now that we have in town, and the homeless numbers are growing to a great concern to me. And I think we need to do something, and I know I would have liked to have brought them to us and talked to us and, you know, see what all we can do jointly. If you go downtown Jackson, man, you got so many homeless people, they're sleeping on benches, and, you know, something really needs to be done about this homeless situation in this community. On number 7, I can wait again on this with the fund balance tonight, because you have a lot of people losing houses, and nobody really work with, or no one to kind of talk to them about what do it take to keep houses, and to try to help people not lose a house. And the more houses we lose in these communities, you get abandoned property, overgrown property, that really take away from everything that we're trying to do as a whole and run these communities. Now, on number established home repair grant for senior citizens in the poor, I hope I had some on the agenda. I hope we look at swap funds. A lot of elderly people, especially when the husband is passed, in most cases the husband passed before the wife, and go from 2 incomes to 1. And when they go to that 1 income, if you look at the hailstorm that came through, a lot of these homes with the older roofs, they just didn't have insurance. These old, in most cases, they're old ladies, it's hard for them just to pay the utilities and buy medicine. And not only when the hailstorm came through, now it's raining in there, and when it starts raining in the house, then the ceiling falling in, and you creating a major problem. And I'm hoping that we can work with Hinds County Human Resources to see can we do something to try to help them before it get any worse, because they're bad. And again, you know, it's a shame when you look at, you know, when they're younger, it's 2 young people working and they building a life together. Then in most cases, like I said, the husband passed, and that's 1 income, and you know, it's just devastating. So we'll discuss that, and I don't know if financial and Ms. Wood want to talk about the swap funds, now we can.
I can give you the balances in the swap fund, relative to what we think we'll have, for 2014. The 207 swap will have, projected 1.2 million, and the, 205 swap is 712,000.
Mr. President, in terms of the circuit and chancery court, I was trying to, and I can take it off, to try to make sure that we get ahead of the judges, and I know we got other things in front of us, because they're gonna take some major renovations before these judges force us to. But I think we can slow roll it in terms of trying to slowly get some architects or someone to start looking at what all need to be done, and then we can slowly move toward renovation, letting judges and everybody know that we're looking at moving forward.
I think we're gonna have to do as far as the courthouse, and that should be included in our, is that included in the capital needs? Because that's something that needs to be done. Because some of the courthouses got carpet that's been there for 15 years, the benches are all falling apart and things of that nature, so I think that's something that we need to include in a capital need where we can start working on that right away.
Right, that was not, certainly we agree, and we're working with the judges over at the circuit courthouse on the renovations. As you know, we do have the bond funds available for that. And we've talked about that at previous board meetings to work with the judges to make those recommendations. So I've been in touch with Judge Brady.
But it's gonna take more than just the bond funds than what we have.
Certainly, but we're starting with that.
Okay, all right. Supervisor Stokes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 4, I think we kind of addressed it, when you said a new pod at some time back. I asked how many inmates Madison and Rankin County had, and they said about 250. Because we're gonna have to, and a lot of, we're all waiting on the report to come back. We're gonna have to have something, new build. It don't have to be as large as the current jail. And I still say that build that thing in, that jail in Jackson in an effort to make sure that, as they recognize it, if we start back again with inmates going in and out, at least we're playing, we have something done. And, again, when you wait on the report to come back from the grand jury, you know, if we just don't have enough money, I hope we'll think outside the box. It's gonna come to a point that we're just gonna have to close a pod and I know Supervisor Hunter is saying by meeting with Jackson. I'm saying close the pod and/or there's at least one for misdemeanors. I think the issue of misdemeanors is not as difficult as it would be for a maximum security, so to speak. And we're going back to this contract, which was a bad contract that we signed with Jackson, that we got to be responsible for all the inmates. You know, you're talking about medical, you're talking about feeding, you're talking about clothes, you know. In Jackson, you know, and we love it, a lot of us come from Jackson, and we live here, but those who are a bad decision to do that. So again, before we just break the county, we had to think about, well, Jackson, we're gonna have to close one of these parts, at least one for misdemeanors. And, you know, they're gonna have to shift and start helping us with this responsibility, because this jail responsibility is an awesome responsibility that we just can't carry by ourselves. So that's why I asked about how many maps in Rankin hold, because we had to build a small thing, we just had to do that. Now, as for number 3, the cost of stenographer, I still believe we need that. We speak through our minutes, and it's no indictment on anyone, but I think a stenographer would just make sure that everything is recorded properly. And what we'll do, I think a stenographer, I don't have any idea. Ms. Banks, how much they charge an hour?
They normally charge between $150 to $300 an hour.
Yeah, so
That's only what the court was charged.
Yeah. And if we say $300 an hour, we normally meet, say, 4 hours a meeting, so that's $1,200. We only meet 2 times a month, so we're talking about less than $2,500 for the month, times 10. So we're talking about less than $25,000 for a stenographer. But everything would be a little more accurate in what is said and what is done, especially when you're speaking through your minutes. And that's what's so important about it. Again, no indictment on anyone, but it's good to make sure that what is done and said is recorded properly and everything is done. I know some say, well, you know, you don't want everything said. You know, in government, you have nothing to hide. You know, as long as in government, you know you're not trying to hide nothing, you have nothing to hide, then, you know, let's get it done in such a way where whatever you do is open and above board. So that's why I still support the stenographer. And I think the pay rates, we've already dealt with that, Mr. President. So the only issues that we're looking at is really number 3.
I estimate that $28,800.
Okay. On that list, I have some question, or Mr. President, what, you can combine, performance and staffing assessment and training and put a figure of $30,000 on that and eliminate the $74,000 for county engineer public works. Okay. So that reduces that by $44,000.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. President. I got First of all, we can strike the $1.2 million off the child. Come back and add some. But when I proposed that money, we was talking about trying to find a property between Jefferson Road and make it kind of like a West Hinds County Industrial Park. But after meeting with, Mr. Blake, I think he got some initiatives and plans that ruin, something that comes in. The Wood Johnson Community Center, which is another community center. This is an old school, old Everett Junior High School, and it serves the whole entire, West Hinds County community. They play AAU basketball, it's the only gym, that's operable between Utica, Bozeman, all the rural Hinds County area. And it is in dire need of some repairs. I understand that it's still on, I talked to Mr. Burks, Hinds County School. They still own this property because I had to go out and look at the public library, the other day. And he did address it, got people looking at it. So I would like to try to find some way to do some upgrades, shorter than moving money from the, bond fund. I don't know no other resources that we have available, and we can go to some of the, funds that we just talked about, the 2010, 2010 bond fund, the old fund was available, that, I would like to take a look at that.
Okay.
The other item that I would like to address, I would like to add, accountability, a compliance person, that, a position that we could put about $65,000 there to work closely with Ms. Davis, that can do a kind of oversight throughout the county, looking at accountability of the different departments that we are funding, even though if they are elected officials. Because when we come in and purchase equipment, vehicles, and stuff that we never hear about, if they have damage done to them, or just somebody that holds on each department accountable. And also, it's another area of safety officer. I went through several departments down at the central repair, where I heard of incidents that people dropping stuff on the items on their feet, getting ready. These type of items, problems causing us to work comp and lost time or work. I would like to try to allot about $55,000 just for general safety officer.
We do have a safety officer.
And you do?
Yes, Henry King.
We strike up. You just may need them. I haven't heard about a safety report since I've been here.
Yes, sir. I do get them, and I can share them with you, and I will, apprise you as to his activities and what he does.
And I also understand that we need to put, we'd like to put $200,000 in there for siren maintenance. I understand that we do have new siren equipment, but I understand that the warranty is going off on all the equipment. Maybe Mr. Joey can speak to that, on behalf of that. I may have some information we need to budget, because we don't want to get caught in the middle of the season. The undertaker. So that's all I have.
Okay, let me ask Ms. Davis one quick question, and then Ms. Calhoun had her light on. Ms. Davis, could y'all address, could you address the school crossing guards?
Yes, that's, as far as whether they're still in the budget.
Whether they're still in the budget, what are the plans for them? Because the city of Jackson, the city of Clinton, the city of Terry, I believe, pay for their own school crossing guards, but we're left to pay for the rest of the entire county. I think there was like another $147,000 or more than that, $200,000. that we're left to pay for them, and they've requested more, even though we don't have any say-so as to where they go, what they do, or things of that nature. So is there a plan? I know you were evaluating it at one time. Are we going to discontinue that? Are we going to leave it in the budget? Or, well, I mean, that should be a decision that we make, but your recommendation would be what?
Well, I've always questioned it from the beginning since I've been here, whether we should be funding crossing guards because of my evaluation of, certainly as you just said, the other communities do not pay for them. They usually pay from the school district or the city that in which the schools are within. And they have asked for more. What I found is the crossing guards really do not cross anyone. Okay?
So why are they called crossing guards?
I mean, it might be a few students in one location that they cross. What they really do is direct traffic. And so that has been a concern of mine.
As a liability there.
Right, and but when that concern came, I did evaluate that, and we did get the proper training for the crossing guards to be able to direct traffic.
So crossing guards cannot direct traffic by state law.
Right, but there was some particular training they were able to get.
Okay.
So, certainly, I am not opposed to not having them in the budget. However, certainly I know the schools are depending on them at this time. And so, I would like to give some notice if we decide to take them out.
How much money are we talking about, Ms. Woods?
Their salaries are roughly 90,000 plus the fringe benefits.
Total.
Total about 120,000.
Okay. All right. Dr. Walker, and then we'll move on.
Quickly, I've noticed in some cases, I can be very specific, on Highway 27, at Utica, and a couple of ladies with their cars parked along Highway 18, and they don't stop anything. And then sometimes a police officer who's in the vicinity, but he's stopping people who are driving fast. But he's beyond the point of the schools. Well, if they're detained, then it's pretty common practice for units of government to pay school crossing guards, particularly in municipalities. But in a situation where you have this fine county school district as you have in Hinds County, why can't their village request include money to pay the school crossing guards? And I think maybe some conversation could begin or be held with them where that's the thing that's worked out. They're free to request what they want, pretty much, within certain boundaries, and the Board of Supervisors is obligated by law to go along with them up to a certain amount.
Right. But
So why can't the discussion be held with them to include them in their minutes request, other things on it?
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you. Mr. President, I hope we're looking, and I don't know about the other supervisors, but I really need one more employee. I know Supervisor Hunt has a big district, but I have all the way from Woodrow Wilson to Utica to Terry and South Jackson and different parts of South Jackson. We have some parts of South Jackson with houses and homeowners, then you got an apartment complex, and I got all the apartment complexes, and that leads to other issues. If we're gonna do the job right, and that's why, as you stated earlier, different supervisors need different things. And I need one, I don't know if everybody else needs one, some may not need it. But I hope we'll look at that as a amount of money, you put a pin to that, Ms. Woods. And I still think we need a public relations person, help with pictures and do the basic things that we need in this county. And number three, the broadcast our meetings. If you notice on Channel 20, Pearl and Brandon and Rankin County are taking our Channel 20 because we're not broadcasting. I know we streaming, and I think if we streaming, we should have something we can take them to get the broadcast.
We can.
And cause that, under the contract, we're paid, Channel 20, 18, 19, 20 should be us.
Right.
And I don't know how Pearl and Brandon and Rankin County has taken over our 20, but they got to go somewhere else, because that could be Hinds County.
I think that we need to take a good look at that, because we had a person that lives in my district that has some questions with the Comcast contract and how it's being administered. So we'll be looking at that. I'm going to talk to Ms. Davis about it because that 18, 19, and 20 is supposed to be exclusive.
That's right.
to county government.
That's right.
And certainly welcome the board attorney's office to help us, because that has been a conversation I've been trying to have with Comcast and our contractors, our state.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have legal to put that on our list. But to make a comment on what Supervisor Stokes said, if you remember back several months ago, we had this same conversation in executive session. And not to give anything away that we said in executive session, I would never attempt to tell another supervisor what they need in their district. If Supervisor Stokes feels like he needs what he needs for his district, Supervisor Hunter, Callum, anyone, then that's what they feel like, that they're the person held accountable for that particular district. And as long as we can work it out and accommodate it within the budget, I think that's what we should do. That's just my personal belief as far as what he needs for his particular, because if I have a request, I feel like I need for the people in District 1, then I'm going to request, and I should know what I need in District 1. That's just an overall statement.
I support that idea. You know, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And you know, but again, we one board, and take me to the last issue that you brought up about the discretionary funds. I just think we need to kind of deal with how much we're talking about, and then total up all everything we're looking at.
It's, Mr. Davis put in there for the total discretionary fund of $20,000. Now, some people want to add more or less or whatever, but
Let me just add another, and this could be earmarked, about $5,000 for improvements at the Davis Road Park. And we need to do this, or we're going to have some lawsuits, people will fall through those
that's
plans.
under your name?
That's in District 4.
Okay.
And it's the county park. And some of those little things going on in the press box need to be fixed. And we've worked out a thing with the Girl Scouts, so they're gonna be doing some improvement work there. And if we can get maintenance.
Oh, just had a thought. I mean, I think that in the,
And since you're thinking,
I got
we
you.
need a planning department so that it can be helpful to some of these small towns. We can't take over those small towns. Those small towns have mayors and aldermen and stuff who should be doing some things for those towns. If we had a planning commission, they could be made available to them to help seek some funds and do some planning. We can't do everything for these small towns. Otherwise, we can be supervisors and honorary mayors of this town, that town, another town.
I think I heard that. I think that it's the wish of the board to add a position called planner. I think if that's is that agreeable for everyone? And so you can add that position and make the salary commensurate with what the responsibility would be. But I think that's one of the things that you should add, and all supervisors, I'm not gonna say all, but the majority of supervisors agree with that position as a planner. If I'm not mistaken, you're a former planner too, so you should know what it takes for that office. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Ms. Woods?
I'd just like to quickly recap what we have.
I know we've done a lot, but we've
I'll try to recap the best that I can. And we really want to sell it, the cost of stenographer, Deputy Director of Homeland Security, Youth Employment Year-Round Coordinator, program, I'm sorry. Performance and staffing assessment along with training.
Mr. President, Supervisor Hunter just made a statement, and I think we need to say something, because it happened last year. We're gonna get $100 raise. These other elected officials can come and get more money, and that's what they did to the last.
Now, this $100 that we calculated was just on the employees that reported to the Board of Supervisors. I'm sure that's what you're
Okay,
asking.
so what we can do in January, we can look at we have in the fund balance, we can help elected officials, but, you know, it sends the wrong message. We give everybody 100, they come and give more money. That's
correct. This is under the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. But with the caveat that we're gonna try to help others in January because of what's taking place.
Right. Yeah, Ms. Wood said, coordinator for the youth employment program. I don't think we need to have a position for, we already have the SPOs.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that, working in conjunction with.
She said she didn't read the whole thing.
It says person coordinator, consider staffing to existing SPO responsibility. So the money was for the program itself, and we just do this $51,000,
Yeah.
66720.
Right. Okay.
And then there was the performance assessment, which was needed along with training at 30,000.
Yes, and I think, we need to start on that real soon, because through attrition, we can cut out some of the excess staff that we have in some offices. Some offices, there are people who, don't have anything to do.
In Hinds County?
Yes, sir.
A compliance,
I'll take it to some.
a compliance officer at 65,000 and a silent maintenance, service agreement for $200,000. And that, gave us roughly a total of $841,000 impact in general fund, along with the 143 for the, increase that related to public works, for a total of 984. That's roughly the adjustments.
So,
Does it take 65,000 for a compliance officer?
And that was just the amount that was given, honestly, by the Hinds.
that was an up to,
Flanders.
yeah.
Personally, I don't.
I omitted a couple of things that I had on my, I think that was on, not on the list, and that was the, special project officer, public relations person, and an additional 5,000 to the, supervisors for the
Mr. President.
planner.
Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
I really don't think we need to hire a person full-time in the compliance area. That could be, that's a responsibility that could be given to someone who is currently on staff.
Can I offer a suggestion? If the board can still move forward in approving that with allowing me to review if a current staff person could do that, unless you have someone in mind, Supervisor Walker, because I know you had done some evaluation of employees in the county. If we can look and see if there's a person available for that, bring it back to the board, give a suggestion.
And we can keep the dollar figure there. We can keep the dollar figure there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go out and hire somebody. There are some staff,
Right.
In certain areas who can take this on as their responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that.
I think this person needs to be almost, it needs to be a person that know a little bit about a lot of things. Kind of, what I'm finding throughout the county is that, let me see how I want to say this. If you got people that already in place, kind of, I won't use the buddy system. They can't do this job well because it's gonna be where you call people on the car and really question what they're doing, how they're doing, why. Just somebody gonna have to come in there and just open up. You can't tiptoe this position. And I think it's gonna save a lot of, and make people be accountable. But we need to look at it where we best serve the county and we get the best value, whether this person is part-time or full-time. When I go out to Central Repair, and they tell me invoices, piece of equipment been sitting there 3 weeks because of a barrier, and we can't cut grass. And, you know, it just those simple things.
Well, that letters of termination are called forth here with that.
Okay. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take those numbers back and report back to the board, with those numbers, and let's see how we can work it out. Is that correct? All right.
When we should report back to?
When will you report back to the board?
We can send out the information, but the next meeting is September 13th.
Well, you need to send the information out, but as soon as you possibly can. Can we make a deadline of that? Today's Thursday. Can we make it by Monday? Can you do it by Monday?
Well, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying for us to calculate the financial?
Yes. You have to be able to do that, along with working with the financial advisor. Okay, Ms. Calhoun?
I just wanted understood that I don't have a long list because my preference of needs for Hinds County are listed under the capital improvements.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
do they want us to look at identifying money to plug these holes as supervisors also, or do you just want to?
I think what they're gonna do is, based upon what I heard from the board, is they're gonna take this list and they're gonna try to plug all these holes. And then come back and tell us what they're able to do and how it affects the bottom line of the budget. And we go with it and vote from that particular day. I think that what you should do, let me let the board speak. That at least come back with 1, 2, or 3 options, like we've done in the past. And that way we know when we're voting on 1, 2, or 3, and that's it. Or maybe a 4. Now, I don't know if that's the way the board wants to do it, if there are any other changes that they want to do, or from that point, if not, I'm not hearing any, come back with 4 options, and let us see all those 4 options by Monday, and then we'll be prepared to vote on the 13th. Okay?
Mr. President, I will
Yes.
not be available.
They're going to send it email. They're going to send the email. All right, if that's the case, then we'll now ask for a motion to adjourn. It's been moved. Is there a second?
I want to suggest the board just one second for point of clarity. Mr. Taylorson and Mr. Simon are not here today because they had to go to New Orleans to address the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. So that's why they're not here, but I'm here. And I look forward to working with you all. I heard some of your issues on Tuesday, heard some more today. I look forward to working with Ms. Prince, Ms. Davis, Ms. Lowell, and Ms. Ward to get those issues to you and have something worked out by the next meeting for a status report.
Even our issues have issues, so we have issues, so we really appreciate you helping us. Thank you very much, Ms. Calhoun.
I guess I'm a little bit confused because the board voted to hire Attorney Tableson as board attorney. However, the board hired the firm of Tableson, Banks and Simon to handle all other contractual items and all other regarding legal matters. So I guess I'm confused. Is the board, is Ms. Prince still on board as the?
Yes, Mr. Taberson, he's going to take care of all of that. The board attorney and the legal team, they are all working together. They are going to bring everything back to the board. They know exactly what they're going to do. Ms. Prince is still here. Everything is going according to order. We have a motion and a second.
Okay, and we need contact numbers because I've called for the past 2 days trying to reach somebody.
I gave Ms. Prince all my information, but I will give you personally.
Would you
all my information.
email all of the supervisors?
Mr. President,
Yes.
let me say this, Supervisor Hunter made this statement to me, is if we're looking for 800,000 and we got over $1 million in the what we're gonna put reserve, then look like that million.
Swap.
No, I'm talking about not to swap the reserves. See, we had 2.5, but they were going 3.5. So we got, we need 5%, we okay with 2.5, so that's the million to pay for everything we need to pay for.
I believe we had everything we had to pay for, we had a working cash balance as well.
So,
That's why I was saying, we just incorporate everything.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let's look at it, let's not forget, Mr. President, before we carry this motion, that it was recommended, I heard Mr. Stokes and I embraced it, that at some point, we're gonna need to look at some way of enhancing our public image, possibly through getting someone part-time to do some stuff in the area of public relations.
That's part of that as well.
So that's gonna be included?
That's,
Yeah,
everything's in there, it's like soup, everything's in there.
Oh,
Okay, all right.
I moved, Mr. President.
All right, is there a second? All in favor say aye. Meeting adjourned, thank you.
Nice.